Okay, now welcome back. We're going to look at, we've just looked at skyboxes in the last tutorial, and I mentioned about trigger hurts. When you fall off the edge of a map and you fall into space, it'll kill you instantly, so you can't run around on the floor. Well, I'm going to show you how to do things like that now. We're going to look at all different types of triggers later on, but for now we'll just concentrate on the trigger hurt. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to build a room, and we'll make it quite long, so that we've got some scope to actually run and place these brushes in. We're going to make it so that the brush will actually kill anyone who touches it straight away. And usually, you know, the only place you're going to use that is on a floor or some type of you know uh, some type of place that players wouldn't have to run through. You don't want to place a weapon on the other side of one of these brushes with with the damage set to like 300. We don't want to do that because no one's ever going to get through and get that weapon unless they had the invulnerability. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick a texture out. It doesn't really matter so much, but I'm looking for a specific one. I'll tell you what, we'll use bricks. That will do. So we've textured the room, and we'll hollow it out, and we'll get rid of our texture browser, and we can go inside. We've got a nice long room that we can start to put our entities in. Now the first entity we're going to need is either a player start or a light. You need both of them anyway, because otherwise you ain't really going to be able to see anything in the map. As I said earlier, you can set brushes to emit light, but sometimes you actually need to place lights within the map, otherwise weapons and models and other things won't show up. Okay, so we've put our light in. The next thing we need is a player start position. So we'll place that in. We'll right click, we'll go to info, info player deathmatch, and we'll drag that over there. Now we'll put it, do you know what, we'll put it straight in the middle. And of course he's facing the wrong way at the moment, so we'll make sure that we can flip it round so he's facing forwards, facing right down the room, so you'll spawn at almost that position. Okay, so we've got our player start and our light. So what to do next? Well, we'll put our trigger brush in. Now we'll draw a nice big brush right the way across the map. Let's see, we've started it there, and we'll zoom in up here, and we'll drag it across. Remember, to create a brush, it's just a case of deselecting everything in the map and then clicking and dragging with the left mouse button. So we've got a brush there. It just looks like bricks. If I was to leave it like that, you wouldn't know that this hidden part of the map exists behind here. So we're going to move that forward a little bit, and to select it we're going to do shift click, and then we can use the translate tool to drag it forwards and back to our resize tool. Okay, now we want to set it so that it has a certain texture. We want to set it so that it's got like it looks a bit like a grid, and the reason being, that's the chopper. You walk through it, that's it, you're in trouble. So we'll use this red grid because that's a nice colour. Now we can't see through it because we've got the red and we've got the black as well. Now we can actually set this to transparent, which we're going to do now, so you'll be able to see through all the black squares and you'll just see the red lines going down the map and across. So we'll select it and we'll press S to get to our surface inspector, and we'll set it with trans 33 because I know that trans 33 will make this texture transparent. It does actually vary from brush to or texture to texture which ones will make them see-through and partially see-through, etc. It's just a case of try it yourself, and if it doesn't work, well, try it the other way. Very simple. Now, I could turn this right here into a trigger, but the problem is with that is that you can't see this brush once it's been turned into a trigger. So I'm going to make this smaller, and if I was to right click now and turn this into a trigger, this brush you could see now, but when you went into game it will be invisible, which is not exactly what you want. People are going to be running forward and thinking, well, why was I just killed? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a trigger brush right in front of it. Now we're going to do it pretty fine here, so I'm going to go down to the grid 1, which is fine, 1 unit. We could go even thinner, but we won't. So we're going to put a 1 unit trigger brush in front of, we'll make it 2, so we know we've definitely got it there. We're going to put a 2 unit trigger brush right in front of the grid. I'll drag that right down. In fact, I'll do it over here, it's got better control. Okay, and you notice it's got this red grid effect again. So we've got two separate red grids. Now, that could become a bit confusing if you're looking at it in the editor. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the texture, and we'll go into common, and we'll set it to trigger. You don't need to. You could set it to anything you wanted. You know, I could set it to this if I wanted to. But we're going to set it to trigger because it's nice. It stands out really brightly, and you know that that trigger has something to do. Now at the moment that's just a brush that's got the trigger texture marked. That's all it is. So what we need to do is we need to tell the game that this trigger is going to do something. Now to do that we select it by shift clicking, and then we move into one of our 3D plane windows and we right click, and it brings up this entities list, and we'll go to trigger down at the bottom. In fact, I'll move that up because it's cutting off the bottom. We'll go to trigger. Okay, and we see now we've got trigger hair right there. Now we click that trigger hair, and that has now created that as a trigger hair brush. You may be able to see the text if I decrease the grid lines a little bit and zoom in. You can see there it's got the text trigger hair right in the middle of that brush. So now we need to set up trigger properties. Now we'll hit the N key to bring up the entities list, and we can see we've got all these different keys. If unsure of what anything does, read this section here because it will tell you what each trigger or entity or anything requires to run. So we're going to set our damage key, so we'll type in DMG in the key because we can see here damage is the amount of damage that it produces, and we'll set the key to 250 and we'll press the enter key. Now that's it. That's basically set the damage on this trigger brush to 250, and that is all you need to create a trigger head. So we'll save that and we'll get the map compiled. We'll save it as trigger. Yeah, it already exists because I tested it out before. And now we'll go and build it. I have a script to do this, but we'll look into the compile tools later. Build trigger does all three of them. And now we're ready to flip into the game and give it a test. Okay, so here we are, Alien Arena loaded up. Now we want to load our map. Instead of going through all the menus to find our map, we'll just drop the console and we'll type in map trigger. And we'll wait for that to load. Okay, so here we go, we've loaded the map, and we can see here very, very discreetly we've got this red grid. Okay, we'll just we'll run through it. Oh, we were killed. What do you think about that then? Now obviously we can't see it very well because of the just basically the colour of the wall, but we don't want anyone to ever be able to go to the other side of the map there, so when they get close they realise it's too late, and yeah, they're jibbed. Right, there's another thing I didn't do with this brush, but it was because basically we never want people to go to the other side of the map, even with Alien Force or Invulnerability. I didn't set the brush so it could be passed through. Now I'll jump into it again, I'm jibbed. Oh, I've got -2, you know, that's not a good score. See, I'm jibbed again. Now we could set that brush so it's missed, so you can walk through it. But that was basically just to show you very quickly that the triggers can be used. Look at all the jibs building up on the bottom. Yeah, the triggers can be used for numerous things, and one of them is trigger hair, which will control where the players can go in your map. Okay, so that is a trigger hair brush. I'm having fun kind of jumping into it and building a little bit of jibs at the bottom there. Don't think I've ever done this so much. So that's it. We'll look at the trigger properties, we'll look at other triggers in the next video. Okay, just want to add, remember I said there in the game that you can set this brush to mist. Well, that's very simple. We'll bring up the surface inspector and we'll set the brush to mist at the bottom, which means people can pass through it, and it can still be seen, but people can pass through it, so that if you did want someone to be able to get to the other side of the map where they have invulnerability or alien force or something like that, then they could run through it and not have a problem. Okay, so let's get on to the next part of the tutorial. Thanks for watching.